Okay. I can't make up my mind. I wanted to talk about one thing today, but every time I start talking, I keep running across other things that I want to say, and I'm tending to babble on. So let me just start by wishing everybody a happy Easter. Not in the religious sense that you should take joy in vicarious redemption through human sacrifice, but in the sense that I hope you have a good day with your family, those of you who spend these types of holidays with your loved ones. Mainly because I believe this is all the time you have to do it in, is during this life. So you should take advantage of that and have a good day. And if somebody tells me Happy Easter, I take it in that sense, whether I know they're wishing it in a religious sense or not. So it doesn't bother me for somebody to say Happy Easter or Merry Christmas. The only one that really bothers me is have a blessed day, as in I couldn't have a good day unless God was doing something to bless me. I think that's ridiculous. It accomplishes nothing. That's the only one that bothers me. And normally I just bite my tongue even for that one, because I realize the person intends well regardless. The main topic that I intended for today was to talk about these religious freedom acts, which to me are nothing but a load of crap, because your freedom to worship and adhere to your religion is guaranteed in the First Amendment. That's all we need. We don't need any other laws for that. Your right to refuse service, those laws already exist. You can refuse service to anybody for whatever reason. And if you want to try to refuse service to homosexuals on religious grounds, just do me the favor of putting a sign up at the door. I'm not a homosexual, but I don't support bigotry. So if that's what your establishment proposes to do, I would know not to go in myself. But the thing is, I can find no basis within what I was taught of Christianity when I was a Christian for this type of bigotry, because I was taught all sin was equal, whether it was homosexuality, telling a lie, murder, lust, what have you. It's all equal in the eyes of God. So if you're going to discriminate against homosexuals, you should also discriminate against liars. You should also discriminate against adulterers. You should discriminate against divorcees. You would wind up discriminating against so many people, you wouldn't be able to run a business. You would go under immediately. So why you want to pick one sin out of all the other sins? I say, no, this is where I draw the line, when they're all equal in the eyes of God, is beyond me. There's no basis for this in what Christianity teaches. You want to teach homosexuality as a sin within your church, that is fine. But outside of your church, you do not have the right to control other people's lives and deny them legal protection under the law, or deny them marriage and the legal advantages that come out of marriage in a secular legal system. But again, nothing in the Bible that allows for this. I mean, at least as far as Christ's teachings go. And to me, if you accept that Christ said these words, which I don't, but if you accept that this is what Christ had to say, it doesn't matter if in Acts or Romans or Corinthians, Paul or Timothy or Peter said something that was in contrast to what Christ says. Even if you think it was divinely inspired, then either Christ was wrong, or he and God are not of one mind, or they were of the same mind and God changed it. And to me, it's more that, well, maybe that man made a mistake based off of his own lack of understanding. And that's all it comes to. And all I have is the Bible to argue with Christians with, because that's all most of them want to turn around and point to. They don't want to think about evidence. They don't want to look at the findings of science. They don't want to listen to reason. anytime it contrasts with what something their pastors told them, or with something they want to believe. They don't understand homosexuality, so they want to hold on to a strong bigotry against those who are homosexual. But there's nothing in the Bible to support these views. I mean, and Christian faith is what I was raised in. Southern Baptist for the first 10 or so years, and then kind of pushed into Catholicism for the next 10. Then tried during the period I was searching and attempting to hold on to this belief to go back to Southern Baptist, but just couldn't do it. But that's what I was brought up with, was the Christian faith. And it's what I deal with on a daily basis. So this is all I currently use to argue with. I am trying to read the Quran, working my way through some other religious texts and teachings, and doing a little bit more research. But for now, and especially since these Religious Freedom Act has been being pushed by the Christians, this is what I have to argue with, is the Bible. So right here, Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, verse 38. Let's start there. Skipping the Beatitudes and a lot of the other stuff that doesn't have much bearing. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. Christ tells you not to resist an evil person. So if that homosexual walks into your pizzeria and orders a pizza, you should serve him a pizza. Period. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your cloak also. So if you discriminate against somebody and they sue you for that discrimination, rather than trying to pass a law saying they can't sue you, that allows you to discriminate, give them whatever they ask for, plus a little bit. Whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. So a homosexual walks in, says, hey, you have to put up with me? Okay, fine, sit down, take all the time you want. Nowhere does it say to condemn somebody, or to, the word slipped right out of my head, sorry. But nowhere does it say to revile someone or to condemn them. Instead, it says, do not resist an evil person. Period. Christ's words to you as a Christian. And as a Christian, this is what you should follow, because you claim to be a follower of Christ. That's what being a Christian is supposed to be. One who follows the teachings of Christ. Damn it, I keep letting that burn out. Give to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. I'm going to cover that later. Love your enemies. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, Christ's teachings, I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. Pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Nowhere does it say discriminate against them. It says do good towards them. So if a homosexual comes into your place of business and wants a cake with a couple of tuxedoed figures on the top instead of a bride and a groom, do good to them. Don't say, oh no, we're not going to serve you because we don't believe, or we think homosexuality is a sin, because again, all sin is equal. Why aren't you denying service to liars or divorcees? Or anyone you think commits any other kind of sin? That you may be sons of your Father in heaven, for he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. In other words, God takes care of everybody. He provides everybody with the same stuff, regardless of whether they're good or bad, sinner or redeemed. And you should be doing the same. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even tax collectors do the same? Some versions say pagans, but this one says tax collectors. And if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so? Again, other versions say pagans. Therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. In other words, it's saying, don't just say, hey, you fellow Christians come into my business establishment or sit down at my hearth and receive hospitality. Not just my family members come in here, but everybody. Treat everybody equally, because that is how you spread your faith. You show love towards others. You do so by example. You don't try to force them to conform to your beliefs, but you love them. You show them that there is something of value in holding this faith. That is what Christ is saying here. He's not telling you to go discriminate. He's not telling you to revile certain people. Judgment's left up to God. You are to love everyone, because even God treats everybody the same, makes the sun rise on everybody, sends the rain to everybody. And that, sending the sun and the rain to everybody should let you know, all those who say, well, you're going to bring down the wrath of God on America. That right there should tell you that's a ridiculous sentiment to hold. Christ is saying that he's going to send the rain to everyone. He's going to make the sun rise on everyone, be they good or evil, just or unjust. So even if you think homosexuality is evil, God's not saying he's going to punish it according to Jesus and the Sermon on the Mount. He allows it to exist. But you are supposed to be like God. You're supposed to love everyone and leave the judgments to God. Nowhere in here does it say that your faith tells you to revile anyone, to discriminate against anyone, to force anyone to conform to what you want to think. So these religious freedom acts are bullshit. And every Christian out there should be standing up and saying that discriminating against somebody because you believe them to be a sinner or evil or a non-believer or what have you is bullshit. Because that's not how Christ treated anyone. Christ preferred to hang out with the sinners, because those were the ones who needed his love and compassion. Those were the ones who needed to be reached. And you couldn't reach them by pushing them away. You could only reach them by pulling them in and showing them love. So all this discrimination bullshit basically shows that you're not a Christian, because you're supposed to be known by the fruits that you bear. And if all you bear is hate and bigotry, you're not Christ-like. You're not showing the love that Christ told you to have towards other people. And I know you can go cherry pick other verses that say other things. I come not to bring peace, but to bring a sword. But that was Christ. And he did say, the enemies will be within your own household. But he also tells you to love your enemies. He doesn't say enemies are going to cease to exist, but he says love them. So cherry pick away, pick the other verses you want that will support your bigotry. But again, you're not being Christ-like. That is not what I was taught the Christian faith was. That is not what I can find in Christ's teachings. Yes, you can find it all through other places in the Bible, but not in what Christ actually had to say. To be a Christian is to follow the teachings of Christ, not to be a hateful bigot.